Well. Look who is emerging from the depths of internet obscurity. As though I wasn't obscure prior to my disappearing off of YouTube for 4 months. It's been 4 months? Close to 5 months now. Wow. Hi, hello. She's back. She's back, kind of. It's going to be a little while until I return to my irregularly scheduled programming on this channel, but I just wanted to pop in and give you guys a bit of an update on what is going on, and that yes, the intention to return is here. So this is kind of a soft reintroduction of sorts into the world of YouTube again. So what the hell has been going on? The long and short of it is I am not going to get into details, not because I am attempting to uphold some sort of obnoxious air of mystery. Ooh, no, it's not that. It's simply that it is not my style to dwell on the past. It is not my style to let the world in on every little teeny tiny detail of my life, especially when it comes to situations that are less than ideal. I tend to internalize a lot and handle my issues my way, on my terms, in my own time. And I don't enjoy spreading the miasma of my issues onto anyone else. I don't enjoy sharing and projecting because I am quite adept at handling my own problems, squashing them, crunching them up like a little piece of paper and tossing them in the trash, tossing them onto the fire, watching them burn up and then disappear. Once my issues, no matter how severe, whether they be minor or serious, any of that, doesn't matter. I handle them, I get rid of them, I move on. I'm very sensitive to energy, and I just don't want to spread negativity. I don't want to say, hey, this is what's going on. This is why I've been feeling the way that this is why I'm stressed. This is why I'm anxious, because projecting those feelings, especially in this context, you are my audience, creating and posting. This is my happy place, and I would prefer to keep it that way. And once I let those negative feelings out, I don't want anyone to then in turn feel those feelings, whether they're being sympathetic, empathetic. I just don't enjoy spreading those negative clouds. So, long story short, honestly, in my case, long story longer, I am no longer in the apartment that I was living in. And the reason for that is it boiled down to several different reasons, the classic landlord apartment management issues, but most importantly, it boiled down to safety issues. That place became, not only was it obnoxious, if you watched my previous vlog, you may recall that I had already been not in a great headspace for several reasons, but when safety becomes an issue, being annoyed, having nuisances for neighbors, that's one thing, but when safety becomes an issue, baby, I'm not putting up with it anymore. So I had to up and leave rather abruptly. And that abrupt exit is what essentially turned my life upside down, because initially it was going to be just a quick break. I'm going to get out of this apartment, get into a new place, and everything's going to be great in a couple weeks' time. Well, no. A series of unfortunate events just piled on me all at once. And so it just completely discombobulated me entirely. And I essentially had to rebuild my life in a way from scratch. And I know that sounds very dramatic, but the previous 10 years of my life had to be dismantled. And I am rebuilding my little fortress here. So I was thrown off kilter quite a bit, and I'm barely now starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. And I'm slowly starting to, brick by brick, get myself resituated and reacclimated. That's it. I hope nobody was worrying too much about me, but I'm just dealing with typical adult bullshit and all the stress and anxiety that comes with it, right? And once all of those issues are dealt with, one thing that I'm realizing is that after having dealt with all of the noise, all of the external din that I had been dealing with for a couple of months back there, and again, I'm still dealing with some of it, but definitely not to the extent that I was, I'm starting to become forced to address some issues that I had been burying for several years now. The writing has been on the wall since the end of lockdowns. I've mentioned this before on my channel that I have never felt more at peace and more productive than I did during the pandemic, the lockdowns of the pandemic. And yes, I'm pronouncing it that way partially to be facetious, yes, obnoxious Karla, but also because algorithm the algorithm does not appreciate the use of certain words and language, so, but you get it. Le pandemic. Back then, I was given the opportunity to experience 2 years of living, for lack of a better term, I was able to live out my hermity loner fantasy. The desert was incredibly quiet, and every time, it typically is, right? But Palm Springs in particular tends to have its ebbs and flows of activity. But throughout those 2 years, solidly, I was able to experience a level of silence and solitude that I have never experienced in my life. It's something that I had only dreamt of. I was able to operate fully as myself when I stepped out the door. And what I mean by that is I did not have to turn on the mask. I didn't have to go out on the street and smile back at anyone. I didn't have to engage in small talk with the cashiers at the Trader Joe's, right? I didn't have to engage in any of that. I could just go about my business, go out, pay for something, come back home, run more errands. It was just quick. No waste of time, no inconvenience dealing with, the mundane interactions of life, which I feel drain me so much of my energy. And once that ended, the world opened a whole nother can of worms, right? We are now dealing with the aftermath of the pandemic at large and the lockdowns, and everything's just a mess right now everywhere. And especially here on the West Coast. Well, both of the coasts really, but here on the West Coast, there's a miasma of stress and anxiety that everyone is feeling, and for the most part, it has to do with economics, right? I am, by choice, and I suppose by the universe's design, I'm programmed to operate on a very different level than most. I'm not pretending to be special. There are other people out there like me, but I haven't met any yet. And the reason for that is because, we're really good at being loners. We are exceedingly good at hiding, even from each other, right? So we don't find each other. But my lifestyle is such that I can weather such storms. I can weather the pandemic. I can weather severe financial hardships, right? Because I simply don't live like other people. I don't feel these burdens, right? I don't drive a fancy car. I don't live in a penthouse apartment. Hell, I don't have a television set, right? I don't subscribe to cable television. I don't have all these things. I'm not a tech nerd either, so I don't have all these expenses. And so, and of course, single, hi, hello, no family, no nothing to deal with. So I am privileged enough, lucky enough to have been wired this way, but I'm seeing it all. And I'm very sensitive to energies. And I've been learning that with every year that passes by. I'm growing more and more sensitive to other people's energies around me. And Palm Springs, the city that I love so much, is no longer feeling like the city that I fell in love with a decade ago. I moved out here on a whim. I had never visited this city before. It took one trip to say, you know what? I love it here. I'm going to move here. And within a few months, boom, I was here. But the intention was to never stay as long as I did. I came from a large city and I thought Palm Springs is going to be a good test for me. It's going to be a good buffer city. Can I handle a small-ish city? Can I handle living in a tourist town with its ebbs and flows of activity? Can I handle the extreme weather? Turns out I could. I loved all of it. I even enjoy living in a city brimming with upper crusties, despite my not being a member of the upper crusty class. I'm not wealthy. I am not of the upper crust, but as an artist, I can mix with anyone. It's fabulous. So, anywho, all of that to say, Palm Springs, because it is still, it's laughable to say this, but in comparison to other parts of California, namely San Diego, Los Angeles, and the Bay Area, it is still more affordable. Again, that's laughable to say, but it's true. And so people are flocking out here for necessity. There's a fundamental difference in the energy of someone who willingly wants to live here and someone who is forced to move out here because of necessity. I'm not blaming anyone for making the choices that they need to make in order to live their lives, but just as they have no choice but to move out here in order to keep their lives stable, I also have the opportunity and the choice to move somewhere that feels more in line with my energies. And I still love Palm Springs. Don't get me wrong. I love it here. But I think the wheels have now started to turn a little bit slower. You know, the rust has been cracking a little over time, over the past couple of years, that maybe I need to start exploring the idea of moving. Creatives of all stripes, whether we be visual artists, musicians, dancers, photographers, whatever it is, whatever creative pursuit, even people who travel as well, nomads, we all thrive to varying degrees, of course, on dynamism, and I obviously am no exception. That's just something that's floating around in my mind right now, and it has been there, you know, that little flutter, that little feeling has been there deep down, and it's been rearing its head every once in a while, like it knocks, like, hello, I'm here, listen to me. Oh wait, no, you're too busy dealing with the external nonsense to hear me. Well, guess what? One day the universe is gonna pull the rug out from under you and force you to listen to me. And that's, I mean, essentially what has occurred. To be honest, the universe likes to, not to sound very woo-woo here, but I believe in energy, point blank, period. And I feel as though it's a romantic term to say, you know, the universe at large likes to push and pull us in certain directions. It's just an easier way to explain it, even though it's a bit of an esoteric concept. But I feel as though we are provided with signs. You know, you need to do this, you need to do that. I want to push you in this direction. I want to help you by spurring you in that direction, etc., etc. But if we choose to ignore those signs for whatever our reasonings are, eventually all of that piles up and we are forced to then make a decision. It's easier sometimes to just be comfortable, right? I fully understand that, but being too comfortable leads to complacency, a lack of challenge, a lack of dynamism. That is when the soul starts to dim, that little light, right, starts to die. And that's when we creatives don't feel quite right. And over the previous couple of years, when the writing started appearing on the wall for reason A, B, C, D, etc., all the way to reason Z, I just chose to ignore it because I have progressively watched the world around me fall apart, and I think, wow, I'm lucky to not have to deal with these issues because of my quote-unquote weirdness, right? Because of my wiring, because of the way that I'm just designed, right? I don't have to deal with all of this shit. I should be grateful and I should be happy, but no, it doesn't work like that. It is a fool's errand to ignore the stirrings inside. I think that is one of the most fatal flaws in humans in general, is that most humans choose the logical over what their heart and soul are telling them to do for whatever reason. And I will always, always stand firmly that whatever the heart wants, whatever the soul wants, I don't care how difficult it is, I don't care how inconvenient it is, that's the direction that you need to go in. And I'm not speaking for you necessarily, but I'm talking for in general. Everyone is different. I fully understand that. But for the creatives out there, for us, for the little freaks out there, you have to do what your heart and soul are telling you to. It's difficult. It's not always easy. Baby, trust me, I know. Okay? But that's just what we are called to do. And as usual, if you've been on my channel, if you heard that little noise in the background, your girl here always forgets to mute her damn phone when I'm attempting to film a video. So I'm doing that now, even though the video is almost over. But anyhow, we, as in me and the 50 other entities that inhabit my body, are making our way back to YouTube. It's just a matter of reorganizing my space, getting things ready, and getting proper internet, because you all, internet in the desert is no joke. It's crazy. Good internet in the boonies, it's difficult. It is a task to get it. So I just have to settle in a little more. I just have a lot to play Tetris with, organize, make neat and nice, then deal with the big issue, which is the internet, and then I'll be back fully. It's going to take a few more weeks, but this summer we'll see my return, and I look forward to coming back because it's been a long time. I mean, in reality, 4 to 5 months is not that long of an absence, but in the world of the internet and social media, even a month can feel like eons to some people. So that is it. I'm taking off now. Be bad, be good. I don't really give a damn which. Just make sure you come back in one piece, and I will see you in the next one.